WCEG Network, the new WCEG Network. This is Friday, May the 21st, and we are veterans today. Herman Anderson, Anthony Aiken, and we have a guest that will be coming on. And one way you can listen to us is at WCEGTalkRadio.com. As we go through, I will give you other ways. We are the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, and ways that you can follow us is like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and some other ways that you can dial into watching us as is WCEG Talk Radio, WCEG Network, again, WCEGTalkRadio.com. You also can, as I stated, follow us on Facebook, and we are live on YouTube. You can subscribe free to YouTube, and our disclaimer is the topics and opinion are those of the show host and guests, not WCEG Network. And we are WCEG Network is a nonprofit organization, and our office number is 404-490-8649. And I'm Herman Anderson. My co-host is Anthony Aiken, and
Hey,
our guest just appeared.
hey, Herman, how you doing today? Doing all right?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Anthony,
I see our guest has arrived.
Yes,
right.
good afternoon. How are you?
Good morning.
We're doing great. We were doing introduction, and Anthony, you want to introduce yourself? Then we'll go to Debra.
Sure. Just want to say good morning and good afternoon to everyone out there in WCE Network family land. It's so good to be with you again. We have a very exciting host working with me today. That's Herman. And we got an outstanding guest with them big old red glasses on. Styling. State Representative Debra Bazemore. How are you this morning?
I am well. Thank you so much. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you also. We have our listeners all around the world. So this morning, this afternoon, people all around the United States and around the world are going to be listening to our state representative as we get into some very good discussions about her and the things that she's doing in the state of Texas and what she's doing for military members and their families. So again,
Texas or Georgia? Where are
State
you?
of Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Debra is a very good friend of mine. We are partnering and collaborating on a lot of things.
Yes.
We started this journey a few years ago. So, and Debra also has been on other WCEG Networks program along with ours. So, Debra, we have your bio, but we just gonna ask you to give us some highlights, and we'll get into the show.
Okay. So good afternoon, WCEG family, all of those watching. And again, it is a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. And my friend, Mr. Herman Anderson, I so appreciate you. And Mr. Anthony Allen, thank you again. I am, as it was said, State Representative Debra Bazemore, and I represent District 63 in Georgia, the House District, and that encompasses a portion of Fulton, Fayette, and Clayton County. I also serve now for this term as the Chief Deputy Whip in the House of Representatives for the Georgia House Democratic Caucus. So it has been exciting, it has been busy, it has been interesting, to say the least. I love the fact, however, that I am in the room when decisions are being made and I have a voice to add. So I appreciate that, and just understanding more of the processes. And that's one thing I found, that we have to educate our constituents and citizens of Georgia on, because everybody does not understand the processes that take place down at the Capitol.
Well, that's true, because I can recall when I was back in school, ancient times ago, they taught us, what we call at that time civics.
Mm-hmm.
And as a young person, you could understand the legislative process, and the executive branch process.
Mm-hmm.
So as a youngster, you could understand how bills were formulated, laws were passed, understand the process. But now that doesn't seem to be even in the school systems anymore for our young kids to understand what it's all about when it comes to making laws that's going to affect their lives.
That's right. And that's unfortunate, because then they grow up to be adults and still not understanding. I mean, you live your life. You have a lot of life responsibilities. So you know that you have to go to the polls and vote, and you know some of what goes on. But one thing I wanted to share is I met a constituent. I like to meet my constituents wherever I am, and I ask them questions to find out if they are my constituent. And if not, I let them know who their their representative is. And I met this older woman, and I shared with her, I was considering dropping this bill and this bill, introducing on these issues. And we kept in touch. She called my office, upset. The last day of session, she left a very, very nasty message on my administrative assistant's phone. And when I listened to it, she asked me, was I scared to introduce the bill? Why am I scared of them? This is the last day and I need to introduce that bill. And if not, I don't need to be in office. And that's where we need to educate people, because when you are in the majority, the ones that are in the minority, the majority party, they can decide whether they listen to your bill, if they want to hear it in committee, if they want to put it on the floor for a vote, or if they don't. And that's basically what we were really up against this year. There were only a handful of Democratic bills that even got heard and passed, which is unfortunate.
Well, let's go back to November.
Mm-hmm.
Back to November 2020, and how long it took for us in the state of Georgia to even certify the vote, even to the point that the Secretary of State, being a Republican, was questioned by the governor and the incumbent and others around. So I can understand the hostilities. And if you took a look at the news this morning, Governor Kemp, state of Georgia, is already looking down the road, 2 years down the road, about the voting process and how it can be upset. They've already come up with the okey-doke about no drinking, no food, anything in the line, voter suppression. So now they're going to focus on Stacey Abrams and anything that's going to upset the apple cart when it comes down to that vote.
That's right. I can't tell you how many times they have mentioned her name down at the Capitol when she's been gone for a couple of years now, and they continually mention her name in a negative way. And I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. What I was going to say is, as you were saying earlier, what we have to do is educate the voters, continue to get them registered, but have them understand, like you and Anthony both were saying, civics, understand how the system works at the state level. You're state representative, but the local and the national level also is.
That's right.
It's the majority party, and it's who even allows the bill to be heard. And I can understand, in the community, in your district, you got a variety of people. You got people with a variety of priorities. And our people have to understand also is, things have to be, you put them all in the basket, but they all not even gonna reach the the legislature reach the room anyway. Some of them not gonna get there,
Mhm.
but that don't mean people shouldn't put them in there and voice their opinion.
Yeah, and I so agree with you. And I look to my constituents to even bring issues to the forefront. And then I talk to our legislative council so that we can craft a bill around the concern. And sometimes that's as far as our bills get. I mean, we can introduce them, we hand them to the clerk on the floor of the House, and they record them, they read them twice, they assign them to a committee. But that committee chairperson does not have to have you come in and present your bill. I had one of them tell me, I was walking up the aisle and he stopped me. He said, I am so, so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was an excellent bill. And he said, but I can't allow your bill to be heard in my committee. He was the chairperson. And I looked at him and he started making excuses. And I just smiled because I know the game. And he said, I'm so sorry. And then as I'm walking, I like your dress. I'm like, oh, okay. But
Well, let's use Anthony and myself are veterans, so let's just use veterans as an example. And I know it's one thing that I know is that we probably don't ask for enough in through you guys. But in the legislation that passed this year, were there any veterans issues that did you have? I would say I would ask, did we provide you enough to ask for what we want, or we need to do better at that?
so I'm glad you brought that up because I think you all can do better. You can ask for more. That is something that is very favorable because nobody is going to vote against a bill to help veterans. And that's what I found in my 5 years of serving now in the House. We have always passed every bill that I know of that has come before us with regards to veterans. And so I would say to you all, please, if you have needs, let us know. And like I said, what happens is you let us know, we'll have the bill crafted by our legislative council and we will introduce it. And more than likely, like I said, I don't remember a time that we voted down a bill that had to do with veterans, their spouses, their children, any license plates, any professional licensees, school, anything that has to do with you moving around. And we try to make it so much easier for veterans to access whatever resources they need. So please do that.
I'm glad you said that. We don't do enough on our end, but then again, on the other end is they know things need to be done, but there's red tape to get it done, especially with I guess you would say, the turmoil that has been in the VA system. If you take a look at the last administration, there were 3 different cabinet members for the Veterans Department. For whatever reason, they were removed. Now the current cabinet person for the VA department is a former President Obama appointee. So we hope that this person will bring the tenacity to the table in regards to what gets being done. As far as the demographics of the state of Georgia, there are over 700,000 veterans in the state. Of that amount, you got 57,000 that are active duty service members serving all around the world. You got about 25,000 active duty spouses for those that are serving. Then you have another 50,000 active duty children. Then you top that off, where you have the governor has his own army, the National Guard. There are about 43,000 National Guard and Reserve members. And then you top that off, there are about 18,000 reserve spouses and another 28,000 reserve children. So the numbers for the state of Georgia is just astronomical. This is just the state of Georgia. So it's very, very important that issues of importance for veterans and their families are paramount and under the Golden Dome. I'm not sure on the number of state representatives that are veterans. I don't think that number's ever been published. I don't think there's a number out there that tells us that. But for those individuals who are there, they should be also a talking head for the military because they've been there. But again, like Herman stated earlier, there's more that we can do. We need to make sure that we know State Representative Bazemore and others hear our voice, because if we don't speak up, nothing will get done.
And
go ahead.
I can't tell you the number. I don't remember the number, but I can tell you there is a significant number of those in the Georgia General Assembly that have served and that you represent. And I can tell you that my son was in the Air Force before he was medically discharged because of a blood clot. And so he had an honorable discharge and he was in for 15 years. So I don't know all about it, but I know enough through him and with working with Mr. Anderson. And like I said, I can tell you that they do advocate for veterans. They stand up for veterans. Anytime that I've seen a bill introduced with regards to veterans, you will see those individuals that have served get up and go down, stand next to the person that is sponsoring that bill in support.
Very
so
good.
That is one thing that we have bipartisan support for, are the veterans and their needs.
That's
and when you talked about, the Veterans Association, the different facilities, unfortunately, those are federally funded. Those are things, those changes have to come from the federal government.
And this flows into something that I'm doing that's coming up. So I'm going to give my organization a plug, which is Veterans Helping Veterans. And on June the 25th, at the Griswold Senior Citizens in Clayton County, we are having a veteran resources event from 10 to 2. And in that event, the veteran will be able to access support services through attending vendors and organization services such as the Wounded Warrior Alliance, Atlanta Volunteer Group. We are going to have the VA there, and we're going to have the Georgia Department of Veteran Services at this event. And how you can get more information about it is you can actually register for the event online at Eventbrite /E/resources. Another way is to call my voicemail, my office voicemail at 404-996-5679 and leave your information, and we will follow up with you. But this is for veterans and their families, and we will have, in addition to the people that I mentioned, also Chairman of Clayton County, Jeff Turner, will be there, and Debra will be invited. This is her first time hearing of it, but please keep that in mind.
Well, now I got a real good picture of what's going on here. Herman being Air Force and your son being Air Force, now I understand what's going on. Being an Army guy, I don't know.
We accept you. Come on.
So it's good to know that Veterans Helping Veterans have this great program scheduled in June, because it's very, very important to impart information. Very, very important, because information is knowledge, and knowledge can get things done.
That's right.
Open up doors, that kind of thing. May is National Military Appreciation Month. That should be every month. Not just May, set aside, because this country enjoys the freedom because of individuals like Herman and myself and others who've donned the uniform and served in places that your family members don't even know where you are.
That's right.
Don't even have a clue.
Mhm.
But you know, that's why our borders are free. We speak a lot of different language because we're a melting pot of a nation, but we don't have any dictatorship or some type of country that not our friend taking over our borders. So it's important that the representatives like yourself and others understand the importance of the military and the families and laws that affect them. And again, National Military Appreciation Month should be every month, every year, not just in May.
I so agree with you. And if it were not evident before, it is so evident now. We turn on the TV and see in the Middle East what is going on. I mean, just ceasefire now. And I sat and watched for days and I was thinking, what if we had to face something like that? How would we deal with that? Citizens running for their lives every day, not sure if a missile, if a grenade, if something, if officer, I don't know if they're officers, but just army would shoot you down dead,
Well,
your child. So we owe the veterans so much. We can't even repay.
having been in that kind of environment, I can tell you, I have come back and mentioned it to my friends and to my family members. Just close your eyes for a moment and imagine the city of Atlanta completely black, no light whatsoever, and no public services, no water, no food, no sanitation, no heat, nothing. Now open your eyes and visualize that being Atlanta. This place would be in a chaos, total chaos.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. And it's something that I wish a lot of folks will never see. That's why I said freedom's not free.
Well, that is true, and that is until 9/11. It was prior to the military. There has been nothing like that on American soil. But 9/11 kind of changed it. But if you have not been overseas to some of the undeveloped countries or some of the places like what's going on now, the 1% of the United population that make up the veterans are the people that actually have seen it. The other people have not. They might have saw it on vacation, but not as a fighter. So that's always been unique to veterans. It's out of the entire population, only 1% of us serve, and we have. If you went overseas, you've seen, from the bottom to the top of all of the violence and destruction, whatever.
Right.
I just want to state that. And another thing is, I want to go back to, because I think my organization and the organizations got to do a better job of the process you mentioned, as putting together what we want and getting it to you guys and put it in you guys, and you've done it, and other representatives have done it, which is one of them, Mike Glenn, been on my show. He is a veteran.
Yes.
So would you just repeat that? If for example, if my organization wanted something, just walk through what I need to do.
So if your organization or you as an individual, you want to see a change, there's an issue. If you come to us with it, just write up a proposal of sorts, or just say, this is the issue that I see, and I think this is how we can address it. And then once you do that, we take it to, after we review it, we take it to our legal department, and they will look at it, we call it legislative council, and we have a number of lawyers there, good top lawyers, and they are assigned based on what the subject matter is, and they will take a look at it. They will review what the codes are currently, and then they will write it up and send it back to you.
Okay.
And then once they send it back, if they see any concerns, they will also do that. They will send you a letter on top of that piece of legislation, that bill that you want to introduce, and tell you, these are some of the concerns, or, they won't tell you if it's excellent or not, but they will tell you based on the code and what you're asking for, these might be some of the concerns. And then at that point, you move forward, either for it or tweak it. Go back to the person that gave it to you and have more discussion. And then after that, that bill is then you go and get signatures. Some things we like to have support of other of our colleagues on our bills. It's not necessary, but it's good. And so you get, in this case, we're talking about veterans. If you get veterans, and it doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats, you just get those signatures. After you get enough signatures, we usually get about 5, or maybe depending on the bill, we may get more. And then we take it to the clerk that sits in the chamber. And then they will take it and they will mark it. The next day, it will be read to the entire body of the House. Then it will be read a second time the next day. It has to be read twice. Then the second time, that's when the Speaker of the House will assign that bill to a committee. Once it's assigned to that committee, then the responsibility of the sponsor is to then contact that committee's chair and say, my bill was assigned to your committee and I would like a hearing on it. And then once you get that hearing, they tell you what day to show up, what time, and you go, they call you, you present it, you give the facts of what the bill is, how it would work, and if there's any financial obligations for the state, you have a fiscal note, and then the whole committee will ask you questions, and at that point, they will then vote. They will say, do you vote? Somebody make a motion, they make a motion, second it, that bill then moves. And meaning the bill will then go back to the floor of the House for the entire body to vote on. And we vote on it once it's passed. Well, I'm sorry, I missed a step. Once it's moved out of committee, it goes to rules. So you have a chairman of rules, and you have to go before the chairman of rules and those committee members, and you have to present to them and explain to them what your bill is about and how it will affect. After that, the rules chairman decides if that bill is to be moved out of rules onto the floor of the House.
So the rules chairman has that much power that he can decide what goes forward and what doesn't?
That's right. He or she can say yay or nay. And you can go before the rule. It happens to be a male this time. You can go before him 2, 3, 4 times before he makes a decision.
Really?
Oh, yes, definitely. You line up on the wall, you get your a few minutes. I don't even know how long it is. You just say, present the bill, and he says, thank you, and you leave. And then you get notified whether or not that bill has moved to the floor. And the way we find out a lot of times is because we get our calendar. So our calendar will have the different bills for that day on it, and you're voting. So then you have to, once that bill is called, you go down into the well in the chamber, and then you speak to it again to the entire body. And you explain, you might have representatives that have questions. They will ask you questions, you answer the questions, and then we take a vote. We vote on it, passes out, then it goes, it's not done. Then it moves from there and it goes over to the Senate chamber. Wow. And the Senate chamber has the same processes. So they have to go through the process. That's why we have a crossover day. So usually it's like the session. And once it goes over, then they go through the process, and then once they vote it out, then it goes to the governor's desk to be signed. But if you don't get all of those processes done by the time crossover in one house, you have to then, if you're in a term, you have to pick it up and then carry it again the next term. The next year. So we're in a term now, which is 2 years. So whatever wasn't passed of mine, whatever didn't get heard of mine, I will be bringing it up again in January. Second Monday of the month of January, every year we start.
And that's for
40 days. 40 days.
So
not consecutive.
Not consecutive, correct.
Not consecutive days.
Okay.
Just one other thing I want to highlight also is you have invited our organization, and it's important that people show up at the Capitol.
Mhm.
That makes a difference also, right?
Most definitely. When you come in numbers and when you come because you're concerned about a specific thing, people, and I'm talking about other legislators, they recognize that and they take notice and they make sure that whatever you're asking for the most part, they will vote favorably because their eyes on them right then and there. We have not had people down because of the pandemic, but you can always write, email, call. So there's always another way. But when the pandemic is over, when this thing is lifted and we can meet again in person, I would encourage every single person that can, especially veterans, to come down to the Capitol and make your presence known. Makes a difference.
Great. Okay. Next, I know you also we'll switch to another topic that's near and dear to your heart is mental health, and are you the state chair for NAMI? Tell us about that.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up because it was burning in me, and I'm like, okay, I'll get a chance to say it. I'll get a chance. First and foremost, I want to thank Mr. Anderson for hopping on the other night, Tuesday evening. I had an event. It was mental health check-in, and I partnered with NAMI, who is the National Association for Mental Illness, and they are excellent. And if you missed it, you missed an excellent opportunity just to be heard. We know that we've been in this pandemic for over 1.5 years. We have been isolated and separated from people we care about. We weren't able to hug I'm a hugger. I hug people. I like to, because I've learned a long time ago, sometimes your hug is the only hug that somebody has received in a long time. So I like to hug people, but not possible, hasn't been possible. And those people that live alone, 1.5 years of being secluded, veterans that have gone through major issues, all the mind starts to go and it starts to bring up memories and you're by yourself. We don't check in on each other enough. So mental health check-in is so important. And even our children are suffering. Some are committing suicide, adults are committing suicide. It is not a good time for some people. So we have to make sure we check in. My granddaughter said to me, she said, I cannot take another year of this. I need to be with my friends. I need to go back to school. I need to do those things. We understand, and they understand too, that it's for everybody's safety, but still, it works and it takes a toll on you. So with NAMI, They came through with all their professionals, and we broke off into different rooms, had great discussions. And afterwards, I spoke to one of the participants, and he said to me, I feel so much better that I was able to get that out. Was not able to get it out to his wife, his feeling, not able to get it out to family members or other people, because a lot of times we don't want to burden them with what we're going through. But that was a space and a place where he was able to just voice how he felt. And we had those that are trained in that area. We had different age groups that's how the rooms were split up in different age groups. And then at one point, we had a lot of people in one room, and the conversation was amazing. So even if you missed it, don't feel bad, because guess what? I'm going to have another one. When I partner with somebody and see the outcome and know that it's necessary for our citizens, constituents, family, friends, children, this is not going away. So, but no, I am not the chair of NAMI or anything. This is just close to my heart. And just to share a little, if I have a little time,
Sure.
My oldest sister had mental illness. We as a family dealt with this for over 30 years. In the beginning, she accepted help. She took her medicine. She hated medicine. I mean, with a passion. She married, they loved, when you talk about Black love, they loved each other. But there were 2 children involved. It got to be overwhelming, but they still loved each other. He had to separate so that the kids could remain healthy. It was, I can't tell you how heartbreaking it was. And especially when they say to you at a point, if that person is not harming themselves or harm to others, there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing, not one thing, because they have rights. And I understand that. But I saw from one aspect, one end of the spectrum to the other, and it hurt. That was my best friend. She eventually passed away not too long ago of a massive heart attack. So those type things, besides the pandemic, and then with having veterans, I can't even imagine seeing the things that you all have seen and experienced. My son would not, he was in Afghanistan. And so he would call every day, but he would not tell us everything. And when he got back, he started telling us some things. And I was like, oh my God, only prayer kept him.
Well, see, not to switch, but particularly veterans that are in the system, which is at the federal level. The state can't do a whole lot about it, but like Anthony mentioned, not at the VA, for example. I mean, mental health is in any VA hospital. Mental health, and you have the physical disabilities. Those 2 things, they're just heartbreaking. And that's, we see a lot of that.
Yeah. You are muted, Anthony.
You're on mute, Anthony.
Yeah, I'd say that's why it's so important for, the VA system to be as strong as it needs to be. Not only are we dealing with the mental health issues, but we're also dealing with the caretaker issues, dealing with those issues. The system can be overwhelmed, but the pandemic has affected staffing. It's actually affected veterans going to the hospital because of lack of staffing, or because of the different guidelines that they're putting in place. I'm a legally blind disabled veteran. I've been in touch with the Blind Rehabilitation Center. Because of the pandemic, veterans that are blind or really, really need support, they can't even go to the hospital.
Mhm.
because of the pandemic situation. So you see the stress on the family
Right.
dealing with a person that has this disability and don't know how to handle it. And the person going through it don't know how to accept it.
Mhm.
So you got this clash,
Yes.
which could lead to something else, escalation of anger and, all those kind of things in the family dynamics. And if there's a situation where there's some mental health concerns, just see where that can go.
Mhm.
That can go off the deep end real quick
Mhm.
with the suicides and, self-inflicted wounds and anything like that. So
Right.
your point's well taken that mental health illnesses and mental health concerns needs to be one of the key points at the front of the spectrum,
That's right. That's right.
especially now.
Let me let our listeners know this great program that you are listening to and watching is presented by WCEG Talk Radio. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and if you have not already not dialed in, you can do that by WCEGTalkRadio.com, WCEG Radio, and you can also follow us on Facebook, and you can follow us on YouTube. And again, we are a nonprofit, and our business office number is 404-490-8646. We're going to go ahead and before we run out of time. And
There's one thing I wish politicians would do. We hear a lot from politicians when we get into the campaign season. But I think that's something that they should, like you're doing, staying in touch with your constituents all the time and not just wait for a certain period to garner their vote.
Mhm.
Because during those off years, that's when a lot of things are happening.
Mhm.
And then you get into the campaign season and they get into the core, abortion, things of that nature. But the grassroots things that people need, sometimes overlooked.
I agree with you. I actually had a problem with the fact that people want you to visit this church, that church, go all around, because I have a church. And that was what I did not want people to think, that I was just coming to your church just because it's, campaign season, but I've been working, you know what I mean? But we don't have other ways to reach our constituents most of the time, because I don't know if you all know this, but they decreased our pay from 17,300 some odd dollars to 16,000 some odd dollars, because the Republicans wanted to have points by doing that, because they said, well, our constituents are suffering, so we need to suffer. But that's because if you're making a lot of money outside of the Georgia General Assembly, this is just pocket change to you. But in my case, I'm a disabled retiree. And so I already take a hit and take less because I want to represent my constituents. And I'm saying this to say, then they only give us $7,000 in our expense account. And that's for everything. If you need to have another person, and most times you do, to help you during the session and afterwards, we have one administrative assistant for 8 state representatives, 8. And so you need someone else to help you maneuver and handle all of the business you have. And I say that because then where does that leave us any monies to reach out to our constituents the way we would like to? They just don't give us the resources that are needed. Now in cities, they have money to throw around because those are your tax dollars too, but we don't get that privilege. So we try to think of ways that we can reach our constituents on a regular basis or consistently, to let them know we're here. Just like this show. I mean, just being on the show and letting people know the mental health check-in, that Mr. Anderson and I have a relationship for Vets Helping Vets. Nobody would know that.
Well, you also did a great job of explaining the process because, to me personally, that's an issue. It's sometimes the ball is in our court, and we need to run with it.
Yeah, we definitely need to run with it. Understanding the process is paramount. I think it really needs to be reintroduced back into the school system.
Yes, I agree.
Totally back into the school system.
I agree.
Young adults, even as early as middle school, should be involved with that process to understand the difference between the branch, executive branch, the legislative branch, and how bills and laws are passed and how it can affect you. I tell my children all the time, as I get into my twilight years, who knows where this country is going to be in 10 years?
That's right.
I'll be gone, but for those that are remaining, we hope that we can get through some of the outward racism that we see now. 6th of January was a clear example of that. The number of Black males' deaths at the hands of law enforcement, that's getting crazy. Or the feeling of privileges, being a privileged individual, like in Columbia, South Carolina, where you have a young sergeant, white, approaching a young male, Black, in the same neighborhood, saying that you can't walk on this street. But yet this is the same gentleman, that's the white sergeant, that's training our soldiers in the military. Or you get a letter signed by supposedly 100 general and flag officers stating that the electoral process was rigged, that the presidency was stolen, right?
Big lie.
And that the current president has mental issues. Come on.
To your point, I think that, and I want to really give a shout out to the younger people, our young adults. They came out in numbers. They are educating themselves on the issue. I remember when that shooting took place in Florida, and those kids came down to our Capitol outside, and John Lewis was with them. It was a big march, and they made the statement. They said, okay, we may not be able to vote now, but we will be able to vote soon. But our parents can vote also. So they saw an issue, and they realized that if I don't get educated and if I don't go to the polls and vote, we are going to have a repeat of the same thing. They are not going to stop the guns from coming in our communities. They're not going to take notice that kids are being shot down dead, and they can do something about it. So it's just like with this voting law, this SB 202. This is Jim Crow 2.0. We all know what it was designed to do. We all know there was a big lie, and they still perpetrate the lie over and over and over again. You hear it. You hear some Congress people saying, even on January 6th, it just, if you didn't see the video, you would think they were just going there to visit the Capitol.
It's amazing to me that politics can be so blatant in your face.
Yeah.
That you can have such a separation of the House and the Senate and have totally different views on one particular subject. Knowing
a division of reality.
Yes.
When you're seeing it with your eyes, but somebody continually tells you over and over and over again, and you jump on board and say, yep, that's not what they were doing. That's not what happened.
I think technology and generation makes a difference.
Yes.
With today's technology, a lot of it, they was doing it anyway, but because of technology communication, they need to talk about the backroom deals and all that. But now everybody sees everything.
That's right.
And number two, I think the generation that's coming up now. They seeing this, and they gonna change it.
That's
One
right.
thing that's going to happen is those people up there that's 79, 80, 82 years old, time is gonna run out. So
Mhm.
they're gonna be replaced.
Right.
Hopefully
That's
they
right.
are replaced with a different generation.
That's right. And my whole goal is to, I know a lot of people think I'm younger than what I am, and I thank God for that. But but my thing is I don't plan on dying in this seat. My plan is to, when I know that I'm going to move on to whatever it might be, I'm going to reach back and I'm going to get a young adult that is qualified, that is educated. I want them to come and I will teach them everything I know, because we need to leave it in the hands of those individuals that are qualified, not just because they're popular, not just because they go to church with you, not because they live next to you. That does not qualify you to be a state representative. I need somebody that has built relationships, understand the processes, and they know that when that person leaves, they can take over and they know what to do.
Well,
And yes.
that's really, excuse me, but that's really a hot button of mine. Is
Mhm,
in public, in politics, in business,
mhm.
it's not the popularity contest.
That's right.
It's can you build relationships? Can you get results? And
Mhm,
uh, that's what it's all about. And that's also part of the education process that you're
mhm,
talking about. You start, with at the street level, the grassroots,
mhm.
and to be honest with you, I mean, yeah, some people, if you're a great orator, you can get some votes.
Right,
So,
right,
Yeah.
but
It's
so
all about
we got to work on that.
yeah, it's all about the approach.
right.
It's not what is who. And
Mhm,
you can see that clearly in any process of you garner voting because someone thinks just like you do, or you try to get them to follow your philosophy, uh,
mhm.
doing the right thing, the right thing for the constituency, as you state, because that's your goal. Every
Right.
day waking up, what can I do for my constituency?
That's right. You
Uh,
have to have a heart for it.
yeah, got to. You got to have that desire because you're going to have that fighting force against you every day.
Mhm,
The other side of the aisle, as they call it, or the other thinking pattern. But do you have the intestinal fortitude, the strength to see it through, the
mhm.
tenacity to
To
stick with
tenacity, you have to. Yeah.
that goal?
Mhm.
If you don't
And
have it, you're in the wrong place.
and I have to correct my friend, Mr. Anderson. He said we've been friends for 3 years. So we formed a relationship prior to me becoming a state representative, and I've been a state rep for 5 years.
Yeah.
So
Well, actually, you go back and count, we formed a relationship just after we started my organization, and
yes,
we're 9 years old, so close to
yes,
9 years.
yes.
That was before you became a state rep.
That's right. And I brought that up because it went to the point of this issue that you have to get involved
Correct.
prior to your aspirations, prior to whatever. I was not aspiring to be a state representative. That's not why I did it. I did it because my heart was in it. And that's what I do.
Just tell a little bit of what me and my Savannah State buddy Lewis did is when you decided to run,
Yes.
we we started we helped you with the campaign and all that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Lewis was amazing. He was a good friend. He was dedicated. He understood what was necessary and he jumped right in. And so were you. And I appreciate you for that.
Well, that's
And
the kind of person Herman is. He's a hard working guy
let our
in the community.
our listeners know before we run out of time that we Veterans Helping Veterans has the event coming up, and it's June the 25th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Griswold Senior Center in Clayton County. And you can register by going to Eventbrite at www.eventbrite.com/resources, or please call this number 404-996-5679, and we will register. We are going to have, we inviting veterans and their families. So this is a family event where a lot of veterans are going to be. We're going to have the Georgia Department of Veteran Services, the VA, and representatives from Clayton County, state representatives, and we're still adding to the list. So please plan to attend.
Yeah, and also too, I'd like to thank a lot of our listeners for participating last week in the Visually Impaired Veterans of America fundraiser. We were very successful in raising funds for the Southeast Blind Rehabilitation Center at the Birmingham VA in Birmingham, Alabama. So we'd just like to thank all of our listeners and friends for participating and being part of that fundraiser.
And
Great.
that's great. Before we go, I just want to say, I need for each and every person, if you are not registered to vote, register. Make sure you're registered. If you think you're registered, you're not sure, check. Even if you know you are, just check to make sure that you are registered. I need for you to start making a plan now, today. We are not waiting until next year. Make a plan now. Are you going to stand in line? Do you fall under the guise of asking for absentee ballot? Whatever you have to do, vote early. Make sure you get your vote in. Do not let anyone stop you. And my thing, what I said this whole session, is I said, now you have shown your hand, Republicans. We know how you are going to try to stop us.
Correct.
When you upset us, and you tell us what we can't do, what happens is we come out and we let you know you will not tell us what we can't do. You will not stop us from exercising our right that our ancestors bled and died for.
Yeah.
We will see you at the polls.
That is super. And I just want to remind people is Debra is at the state level, but we need you to vote county, state, local, everything.
Everything.
We need you to vote every opportunity you get.
Everything.
Because it's everything. You climbing the stairs, you start at the first step and you walk all the way to the White House.
That's right.
We need you to vote in every county, state, mayor, all of them. We need you to make sure you're registered and vote in all activities.
And I'm glad you said that, Herman, because people don't understand. They tell me, oh, I vote for the president every 4 years. I vote all the time. Well, have you voted in your local? Because guess what? Those local municipalities and state representatives and legislators, guess what? We dictate your every day by the laws that we put in place. So if I introduce a bill tomorrow and it is passed and signed into law, guess what? You have to abide by it. So you need to know if you like Representative Bazemore's law or if you don't. Do you like Representative Bazemore or not? So you vote me in or you vote me out. But it's important for you to be educated in that way.
Well, this has been a super show, one of our best. Me and Anthony have been doing this for over 5 years, and Deborah's been on several shows, but clock on the wall said we're out of time.
Is it all right to go?
We got to go after that.
Okay.
So,
all righty. I'll just have to wait till she comes back to ask some more questions.
Anytime.
Good to see you.
You too, all the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. It's always great. This is Veterans Today. We thank our listeners, and we this is our show. After this, we're going to take a sabbatical for about 2 months. So we'll be back in about 2 months. So this show is recorded. You didn't watch it live, please watch it and watch some of our archives. And we'll be back in 2 months. Veterans Today and Anthony's smiling face.
Thank you.